Hi there, my name is Rayana from Wyzant, and I'm happy to go over this GMAT Quant Sufficiency question with you. But before starting with the question, let's go over the rules or the shortcuts that we can use to solve this question. The first rule is whenever you have an even root of an even power of some sort of a variable, right? Always change it to the absolute value of x, right? So again, this rule will only work if we have a variable or an equation in the middle and here inside, and when the root is to the outside of the power, and when this and this are even. And of course, they have to be the same to be able to cross them out to the absolute value of x. So this is the first rule. The second rule is something you know, but here I'm putting it here so you're able to recognize it when you see it. So whenever you have a minus b, if you want to flip it, if you want to write b minus a, you put the minus sign. So a minus b will always be equal to minus between parentheses b minus a, right? So let's go to the question. Rephrasing the stem. This left side here is basically the same as saying the absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to 3 minus x. So the question is asking you, is the absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to 3 minus x? What does this mean? When will this absolute value of x minus 3 be equal to this? Remember this here, 3 minus x, according to this rule, right, is actually minus x minus 3, right? So if I flip this, I'm going to get this. What is this telling me? This is telling me that x minus 3 is actually less than 0. Why is that? Because when the output of an absolute value will always be positive, which means this whole thing here is positive. If this whole thing is positive, then x minus 3 must be negative. So the question is, rephrasing this question, is whether x minus 3 is less than 0, and I can go further and say whether x is less than 3, right? So this is rephrasing this whole equation to whether x is less than 3. So let's start with the first statement. The first statement says that x is not equal to 3. Well, this is not sufficient. Why? Because it could be greater than 3 or it could be less than 3. So the answer cannot be, I do not know the answer. This is not sufficient. I go to the second statement. It tells me that negative x times the absolute value of x is a positive number, because when it's greater than 0, the rephrasing of this statement is whether this is a positive number. Well, if this is a positive number, it's given as a positive number, and the absolute value will always be positive, then what we are left with here, the minus x, must also be greater than 0. And if minus x is greater than 0, we can multiply by the negative 1 and flip the sign and say x is less than 0. So statement 2 is telling me x is less than 0. Is this sufficient to answer the question? Well, yes, it is, because if x is less than 0, if x is less than 0, then x must be for sure less than 3, right? So this is sufficient, because if x is less than 0, it's definitely going to be less than 3. So the answer here is B. Statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. Hope this was helpful, and good luck with the GMAT.